I don't think you have to look, going back to kindness, I don't think you have to look for kindness. I think you have to look for community and building connections with people, and from that, kindness will come. Inevitably, it has to.
Welcome to Curious Chats and Kind Acts, the podcast that celebrates difference, kindness, and the little things we can all do to make our world a better place. Join me, your host, Sonia, co-founder of the Axe charity, for some open, authentic and fun conversations with lots of interesting, extraordinary, everyday people who are all a little bit different. Prepare to have your curiosity piqued and your heart warmed as we explore the ways we can all make a difference in the world, no matter how small. So get ready to be inspired, uplifted and motivated to be the kindest version of yourself. Let's make the world a kinder place, one conversation at a time.
Hello, welcome to Curious Chats and Kind Acts. I hope you're having a great day. Today I chat with Claire. She started a career in restaurants and bars, then moved into corporate world, living in luxury and the posh lifestyle to go with it. She's now trying to live off grid. She would love to live off the land. She homeschools and her happy place is in the garden in a wellies. We chat about Claire's life, and the common theme is her pure determination, which is now allowing her to live an authentic life, being fully present for both her family and her community. And then at the end, it always is, she mentions how she has been healed from a trauma that her 8-year-old ancestor suffered. Yes, there will be a follow-up interview with Mr. Quantum Healer. So here we go. I start by asking her how she met her first love.
In the pub. My dad was a guitar vocalist. He was singing in the pub at the time. So I'd gone down to see him. And he walked into the pub. We started chatting. And then, I can't even remember what it was. That was some kind of a bet. I like making silly bets with people. But we made a kind of bet and he lost. I can't even remember what it was over. And he said, I'll take you for a meal in St. David's Park Hotel if neither one of us were posh. I'll take you for a meal in St. David's Park Hotel if I lose. And he lost the bet. And so he phoned me up a week later and he was like, I'm going to take you to St. David's Park. I said I would. So we got all dressed up, went there. It was a complete giggle. Like, he's a joiner. They came over like all these like well-to-do waiters. And they came over and they were like, how do you want your steak cooked? And he went, I don't know, grilled. Which caused much excitement. Like, we were in hysterics, absolute hysterics. It turned out the only reason he could afford to take me there was he'd won a load of money on a jukebox. So he said that night, I've had a winning on the jukebox. Do you want to go to St. David's? And yeah, we were together 6-7 years, I think.
Did he play the guitar to you? Did he serenade you with songs?
No. He was a drummer.
Oh, right.
My dad was a guitar vocalist.
Right.
He was a drummer. He could play the drums. So, yeah, but he didn't at the time. He didn't have a drum kit, thank God.
Yeah.
But he's good at it. I just don't know that I'd put up with a drum kit in the house.
Jonah got a role in a school play, and it was like, great, well done, but it was the drummer in Rock of Ages or whatever, and you have to have a part but play the drums, so, right, he said, yes, I need a drum kit. So, I mean, you're now playing drums all the time, but we weren't very happy at the time. It was quite... Because we got there's different types. You get the electric ones.
Yeah,
they're worse because all you hear is tap, 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 tap. At least with actual drums.
You can't hear the music. Yeah.
You can, so that was actually better. So you did well to avoid the drumming.
Yeah.
So you were together 7 years?
About that, I think, yeah. Got together when I was 18. Yeah, about 5-6 years. I think we split up when Gavin was 3. Yeah.
And then, are you still in the pub at this point, or?
Was I still in the pub? God, you're asking some old questions.
Yeah, I don't really need to know. It doesn't matter.
Don't know. Don't think that I was. No, I don't think I was. I don't know what I was doing. I might have been. But then, from then I moved, when we split up, I got a job in sales in Chester, doing telesales, and that's where I based my career then. I did that for like 12 years in varying formats. I went into sales and marketing, doing media sales and charitable sales for print magazines and stuff. That's where I kind of got a career and stopped asking about pubs.
Well done. Pubs are fun though.
They are fun.
But then you end up. I remember when I worked in a pub, because I had a tax situation. I was on emergency tax, so I'd earn, I don't know, about £5 an hour, and then we'd have a lock in, and I'd spend £50, and it was just cost inefficient for me to work then.
Yeah, that's why I went back to my mum and dad's.
Because of lock-ins.
Just drank my wages.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't the career for me, that. Okay, so where are you living now? You in Chester, right?
No, so I lived in Shotton. Got a cute little 3-bedroomed house. Two, I think it was 3-bedroom. With me and Gavin. And then when I got the job in Chester, we went through a spell because we were renting. We just had a really mad spell. We lived in like 9 houses in 8 years because loads of different things happened. Like one sold the house, so it was 6 months tenancy, we're selling it, get out. I found other places, so I was a pro at moving. When everyone said it's stressful, I was like, no, it's not. But yeah, so then I moved into Chester, just because it was close to work and stuff like that. And then he went to nursery in Chester as well, which was a nice nursery. It's got closed now. It had a big indoor play pit thing, so it was like a jungle gym in this nursery. It was fab. So he went there, and then I worked for a company that was doing all community advertising. Got into a relationship with the partner there, which, don't mix business and pleasure, but it happened. And had Jake when I was, oh my God, how old was I when I had Jake? He's 16 now, so about 16 years ago.
16 years ago, that would be.
Yeah, 16 years ago, had Jake. Then...
Did you stay with this guy, or was he a...
No, it turned out to be quite a toxic relationship, to say the least. So he was... I didn't know at the time because he didn't clarify it, but he was married, and then he spent a great deal of time deciding whether he wanted to be with me or his wife. So he used to constantly flit between the two of us, and both of us were muppets and were like, oh yeah, this is it, we're going to make it work. And yes, it didn't work. So that actually fell apart when I was 5 months pregnant.
God, that's going to be hard.
Yeah, it was. That was really hard because I was...
Did he have kids with his wife?
He did. He had 3 kids with his wife. And I didn't know the extent of it. I got a call from social services saying, we're coming around about your unborn child. And I was like, this was just after we'd split up. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, Mum, I've got a child who's 4. And they're like, oh, we didn't know that, even more so. So they came around and I was like, what's this like? I've never had involvement with any of these. And they said, we just want to warn you about your partner. He's on the sex offenders register, not for sex offences, but for abuse, physical abuse. So I was like, yeah, we're not having anything to do with each other. And that was kind of it. So then I moved to a company in...
I was going to say, did you have to leave your job?
Liverpool, promptly. Well, we moved together just before that happened to the company in Liverpool, but then he left, I stayed. So yeah, that was hard. I was working in Chester, dropping Gavin off at childcare in Chester, getting on a train to Liverpool, and then reversing it all the way back, all while being 5 months pregnant. That was fun times.
Wow, knackered.
Yeah, I remember one time I literally fell asleep on my staircase trying to go to bed. Like, I was so tired, I literally just stopped. Sat down on the stairs and fell asleep.
Like, you kept going, isn't it? There's something in you that...
Well, you can't not, can you?
I suppose, yeah, especially when there's a kid that is dependent upon you.
Yeah.
Like, just in terms of... Because I've always wanted to ask someone this, and you don't have to answer, but, like, did you know that he was married when you first got together? Because I don't think I've ever had an affair knowingly. No,
so he told me that I knew he was married before we got together, but he told me he'd split up.
Okay.
And so, because we had this massive conversation, I was like, you're married? And he's like, no, I'm not, we're having nothing to do with each other. But then it came about and it was just like, oh, you're just flitting between the two. He'd just disappear. I mean, the last time I saw him, he went for a pint of milk.
Oh, right. And just never came
And
back.
just never came back.
Ah, blimey.
But yeah, he was pretty horrific. Yeah.
And what attracted you to him? It's not sounding great at the moment.
Complete narcissist behaviour, love bombed at the beginning, and you just fall into that, oh my God, this guy has like put a spell on me. And it was literally like that. It was like, I think I always knew in the back of my mind, this is really wrong, this is not going to go well. And people told me this is not going to go well. But I was just like, oh, love conquers all, and like completely besotted in a very unhealthy way, completely besotted with him in a really unhealthy way. I mean, it was like a complete infatuation. At the time, he could have done anything, and I'd have just been like a little lapdog. Like, it was insane. It was an insane experience to go through, because I was just like completely like under a spell. Like, it didn't matter. I was like, every time he came back, I was just so grateful that he was back in my life. And it was like, okay. And he was like, this is the last time. I was like, okay, it's fine.
And then
Like,
do it again.
And then he'd do it again.
It's mad, isn't it? Because you're quite a rational person from what...
Yeah, that confused everyone. Everyone was like, I didn't think in a million years you'd ever get into that situation. Like, you're quite strong. And I was like, yeah, I always thought, when I heard of other people going through it, I was like, but why'd you put up with that? That's stupid. Like, where's your morals? Where's your values? And it wasn't until I went through it, I was like, it's mind control. It literally is mind. You are not in possession of your own mind. Like, you will put up with situations you would never put up with normally.
Just because you...
I don't know what it is. Like, I've done trauma therapy and all sorts, and I was like, I still don't get it. I don't get how somebody can like take over your life like that. And it really is like that. It really is like taking over your life.
And so how did it end in the end? He left.
Well, yeah, ultimately he left and never came back, because, do you know, I don't know what would have ever broken that cycle. I don't know that I wouldn't like still be in that cycle of rubbishness. It was really weird. So, like, yeah, I'd love to say, oh, I kicked him to the curb and like I made the decision and finally, got a sense of purpose, but it wasn't like that.
And do you think you'd take him back now if you
God, no.
with the milk?
No.
It's some semi-skim. Do you want to give it another go?
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, it's a bit sour. You can keep it. So yeah, it was bizarre moment in time in my life. Taught me lots of lessons though. I always believe the bad experiences are as good a lesson as the good experiences, but yeah, it was a really weird one.
And now you're 5 months pregnant and single parent
Again.
Yeah. So what went on then? How did that work? You just knackered all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think relatively easy, because I think that when you're in that situation, you don't know any different. You haven't got it to compare with. So, like, obviously he was born, like when he was born I was single, so it wasn't like having this really secure family environment and then somebody removed from that you're then taking up all the load. It was all the load from the beginning. So yeah, it was good. And I was massively career minded. Like, I literally, it's such a world away from Jess, but I literally, the day he could go to childcare, he went to nursery at 6 weeks old, so I could carry on working, because I had to, because I needed the money. So I didn't have a long, literally 6 weeks, and he went to full-time nursery, and I just went back to work because I didn't know anything other than work. I was like, I have to work. That was my mission. Like, as long as I keep working, then I can pay the rent, and then we'll be all right. And I earned good money. I was good at what I did, so I earned good money. And so we lived a really good life. It wasn't like we struggled financially. I did well. I'd had years of experience and got to a stage where I knew what I was doing and could sort of pull money out the bag, because I worked a lot on commission. So it was nice in that way, because I could put my foot down when I needed to. And they really looked after me as well. They were brilliant. They paid me while I was on maternity leave, full pay and stuff like that. Really, really good company. And yeah, so I stayed there, for years. I'm not going to say how many years because I don't know. And then it was one summer, that was the only struggle I always used to have, is the summer holidays, having 2 in full-time childcare. Obviously, Gavin was in school then, so I only was paying really for 1 and then a wraparound care for Gavin. But in full-time childcare, it was like £350 a week. So very often, with the overtime that I had, and then I was like, I work for free for those 6 weeks. I literally don't earn any money because my childcare expenses is more than I get paid. So I spoke with them and said, can I take 6 weeks leave over the summer? And they were like, why do you want to do that? So I explained the situation. They were like, yeah, okay. It was really naughty, but I needed to kind of prove it. So I took the 6 weeks leave, and then about a week into it, I was bored because I don't like having holidays and nothing to do. So I was like, what can I do that would wrap around the kids? I know, I'm going to start dog walking because I had a dog. Went on Facebook, set up this page. I'm a dog walker. You need licenses to do it now, but you didn't then. I had a CRB and stuff like that. So I was like, right, I've got all the structure in place. I'm going to do it. And if I get some clients before the 6 weeks are over, then I won't go back. And if I don't, then I will. And within 6 weeks, I had 3 people wanting me to walk their dogs at like £8 an hour. So it was really fancy money. But I was like, right, do or die, what do I do? Do I take this massive risk? I'm going to do it on my own and be able to make my own money? Or do I go back to that? And I started to feel really boxed in. Because I'd been so career-minded and like, it was my whole life. Like, I lived and breathed it. When I wasn't in work, I was with the people I worked with. Yeah. And I was like, there's more to life than this. I want more time with the children. I want to be there. Like, I missed all their school plays. I missed, because I couldn't get time off work to go to their, like, nativities and stuff. I was like, no, I want to be there more. So I said I wasn't going back. Didn't go back after the 6 weeks. That went really well. It was buttons compared to what I was earning there. But my life got considerably cheaper because I wasn't like socialising the way I was, going to town every night and doing things at the weekends and stuff. Childcare disappeared because they just went to, I think Jake was just starting nursery. So I wrapped it around nursery, and then I bought a bike and got one of them bike trailers, and I just rode them everywhere, and we'd just go and walk the dogs together. Some holidays, put them in together. And then I did that for 5 years, and that started a sort of self-employment journey from then. And a moral life, that was what woke me up to, like, I want to be here for my children. I don't want to have children that I never see,
And so like that's quite a massive shift, that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, complete 360.
Like, and what drove that, do you think?
I just realised, I think, I'm really grateful that I realised it, but I think it was like realising something that you normally realise when you're a lot older, that there is more to life than work, there's more to life than money. And while on paper I was leading a really good life, like I had this apartment in Chester, the people were like, you're really successful for your age. And I was like, I know, but I don't live. We've never been on holiday. We never go anywhere. Like, I work and shop. and I just wanted something different. And I was like, how do I do this? Like, nobody's going to give me a job that I can pick up and drop when I want. So I'm going to have to try and do it myself. So, yeah, I did dog walking. Started loads of different things in between. So, like, I was like, I'm going to make cupcakes this week, and made them and sold them at, like, school fairs and stuff like that. And it was just making ends meet, but it really woke me up to the fact that I didn't need anywhere near the money I thought I needed to sustain life, and have a good life. Like, we went camping all the time. Like, when I was in the office, if someone had said to me camping, I was like, has it got 5 stars? Because I don't want to know if it isn't. Like, I was so materialistic, it's insane. And I was like, I loved it. We started camping.
And did your relationship with the kids improve? Because you clearly...
Tenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah, tenfold. It was getting to know them. Like, I didn't know my own kids. It was, like... Even when in nursery, like, I remember them saying, oh, he's had such and such for dinner. I was like, he doesn't like that. Does he like that? I didn't know he liked that. And I literally, as much as I was a single parent, people think you do it all on your own. I was a very much weekend parent, because by the time I picked them up from nursery, they had their breakfast there, their lunch there, their dinner there. I brought them home, they were knackered, they went to bed. So I literally only saw my own children really at weekends.
That's mad, isn't it?
And so it was getting to know, both ways, them getting to know me and me getting to know them. It was a really bizarre thing, and it wasn't until we did it that we realised how much we'd missed.
Do you think some of that is because, especially with your second child, I choose to get pregnant, did you? It wasn't a...
No.
So it's almost like, and great, I'm sure you've got great relationships with your kids now, but at the time it's like, well, I didn't really want this. It's just kind of happened.
Yeah, I did. I had loads of problems when I was younger with like ovarian cysts and stuff, and I actually got told at one point that it's highly unlikely I'd ever get pregnant. So it was always in, like, before I had Gavin, I was always like, I'd resign myself to the fact that I wouldn't. And then when I fell pregnant with Gavin, I was like, oh, like, this is our golden opportunity. We can't, like, say no, because this might never happen again. And then with Jake, yeah, it was very much, it sounds really bad to say, but it was very much like, I'm in the situation, I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I always say it doesn't look good, but he wasn't planned. And I was just like, right, you know, let's deal with it. And I wasn't very maternal then at all. Like, it's a world away now.
Yeah, clearly,
But yeah, it was. And it was just, I slotted my children into my life rather than building a life around my children.
Yeah.
Which sounds really bad to say. I mean, Gavin looks back, because Jake doesn't remember that time when I was at the office, but Gavin does. And he's like, we had a great life, Mum. We were in like 5-star restaurants for tea. Like, we had all designer clothes. I remember going to, like, I had Dolce & Gabbana trainers, and I was like, yeah, you did, but that, like, it meant nothing. And then pulled him out of that life, and then, you know, took him camping, and so he really got to see both sides of it. And it's nice now because he's like 22, and he's like, I really see both sides of it. And both sides were as enjoyable as each other.
And which side has he gone on? Has he got the Dolce & Gabbana trainers, or is he camping?
He's super materialistic. He is me in my 20s, completely materialistic.
But there's no right or wrong, is there?
No.
If that's what's getting you excited.
He's modelled my 20s mentality. It's all about work. It's all about money. It's all about the city life. And yeah, he shakes his head that we have now animals everywhere, and he's just like, you're completely bonkers. Like, what happened to my mum that walked around like immaculate all the time, and now she's in wellies? But he actually says that both were really enjoyable for different reasons, whereas Jake, he was too young to remember that side, so he's only ever known like the more wild side, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then Jess came and changed everything.
So you're doing your self-employment.
Yeah.
You've got your 2 lovely children. Where are we at now? Take it from there.
God, what happened then? Oh my word. So I met Dave. I can't tell you what happened work-wise between then.
Lots of random jobs.
Lots of random things in between. It was just like doing stuff to make money. So it was all self-employed, but it was just like silly things. Nothing was ever like a business or anything like that. It was just doing silly things to make some money. And then I met Dave 13 years ago. And
How did you meet?
I went out on a night out with one of my friends, and she just got with her boyfriend. And so she said, her boyfriend came to the club, and she said, I'm going. Are you going home? And I was like, no. I've just paid for a babysitter. I never get out. There is no way I'm going home. I'm staying out. She's like, you can't stay out in Chester on your own at night. I was like, I'll be fine. You go. I'll be absolutely fine. So it was when Cruise hadn't just long opened. And I was like, she was like, where are you going to go? I was like, I'm going to go to Cruise. She's like, you can't go to a nightclub on your own. This is ridiculous. So I'll stay on taxi. I'll be fine. And it was in the queue of Chester, in the queue of Cruise. I think he was behind me. And he started talking. He was like, oh, are you with your mates? No. Are you with your fella? No. Why? Are you on your own? He was with his mates. I think 2 mates. And I was like, yeah. And so I told him, and he was like, you can't, like, I can't believe you're coming on your own. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm coming for a dance. I like dancing. I've paid for a babysitter. There's no way I'm going home. So we just started chatting. We ended up going in together, and then he bought me a drink, and we ended up chatting the whole night. We swapped numbers, and the rest is history.
Isn't it great though? It's like, you know, like with the world of apps now and swiping left and right.
We met old school.
And it, yeah, but I was chatting to the kids about this because I was like, do you not miss that? Like, and Jonah was like, but I don't think I'd feel comfortable going up to a girl. Not that I'm shy, but just like, I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable. I'm like, but that's the only way you could do it then.
It was, and I think it's good that people have got more aware of like boundaries and things like that, but I think that has taken that away. Like, guys are just too scared.
Well, I don't know whether that has, or swiping and apps. You know, like if you think about a lot of people, they'll just look at a picture, they'll swipe left or right, I don't really know.
I don't know.
and then they'll meet just through that app.
Yeah.
So
to me that seems really bizarre, but I haven't still.
That's the world now.
Of course it is, yeah.
It's, I don't know, I think that there's something lost, but then something gained in that, you know, you can meet more people that way without having to go to a nightclub and having a few drinks and...
You can, but then I always say that, like, I'm a big person on, like, universal energy forces and things like that, and bringing people together for a reason and chance coincident meetings, and I think that's been lost.
Mm.
Like, there was such a build-up. He was on a night out with his mates because he'd done some cricket tournament thing. If my mate hadn't... like ditched me to go home, I wouldn't have gone to cruise that night. And so we've always, whereas now it's like, oh yeah, like just picture, and I clicked on it. And they still have beautiful stories thereafter, but it was just that chance meeting's been lost, I think, which is quite nice, because I always think there's a big element that you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know how that fits in with
the world of Tinternet.
Internet dating.
So you've met your husband now? Are you married?
No. No. Don't need a piece of paper.
But you had your third child?
Yeah. So she's five now. It was really funny because I think it was our second day. I was like, I'm having no more kids, by the way, just so you know. Don't know where this is going, like, we're just going for a drink, but I'm not having any more kids. And he was like, no, that's fine, because he didn't have any. So I was like, I need to get this out in the open. No more kids. And he always joked around. We'd go into shops and see baby stuff, and he was like, oh, Jessica would look gorgeous in this. Like, he named this baby that we were never going to have. And, yeah, was late to the pregnancy test, came downstairs. I so wish I'd have done it in a more beautiful way, because, like, it was really big deal for him. I literally threw the pregnancy test at him and said, we have a problem. And that was his introduction to fatherhood. And it was really bizarre. He didn't mention it at all. He was like, I'm really excited, but I understand, like, we had an agreement. And so he just shut up for about 2 weeks, didn't say anything. So then I was like, doesn't he want a baby? Why doesn't I thought he always said he wanted a baby. And so, but it was good. He knows me, and it was good that he gave me that space, because I was just like, I need to get my head around it. I was like, hang on a minute. We just got to the stage that we could leave the boys and go and do a bit of shopping and stuff like that. And I was like, stop this again. Like, what? Like, why would I do that? And then, yeah, maternal instinct stuck over, and I put my hand on my belly and I was like, oh, there's a little baby in there. And then we went from there, and then I was like, right, if it's not a girl, like, you're never going to be forgiven. It has to be a girl. And then we did the scan. He didn't want to know, and I was like, he's like, let's leave it a secret. I was like, no, I want to know if it's a girl. I'm going to find out. You can go out the room. And he was like, okay, we'll find out. And then they scanned me, and they're like, I won't tell you unless I'm confident. And the sonography is like, I can see 2. And I was like, oh, he's going to say testes. He said, I can see 2 ovaries. And, like, considering I was pregnant, I jumped off the bed, gave the sonographer a massive hug, and he was like, I don't think I had much to do with this. It might have been him. And I was like, oh, yeah, thanks. And then, yeah, I was super excited then, because a part of me always wanted a little girl, you know what I mean? So I love the boys to bits, but it's that, like, girl doing girly things. And, Yeah, I was working at a transport company at the time. And I went on maternity leave, and I knew when I went on maternity leave I was not going back. I was like, if we're doing this, I am not missing a second of this. Like, it's never, ever, ever going to happen again. Like, it can't happen again. They sterilised me because I just had an operation in the October, fairly serious operation to get rid of like endometriosis and stuff like that and adhesions. And the final words the doctor said to me, which was completely his fault because he obviously fixed something that was broken, he said, "You'll be okay from now on as long as you don't get pregnant." And I went back in February and was like, "What happens now?" And he was like, my surgeon that dealt with me, he was like, "I'm too old to deal with this. If you're going ahead with this, then I'm going to get a new team involved." And basically what it was a really scary time, although I play it down a lot, and I played it down then. They said carrying the baby won't be a problem, although you have just had surgery. So you've got internal stitches that might cause problems because it was 3 months ago, they're not healed, and you're just going to continue to get bigger. But they didn't know how they were going to deliver her. They said, you can't deliver naturally. You've tried that twice. I had a section with both of the boys. And they said, but because you've had so many stomach operations, there's adhesions and so they were trying to massively encourage me not to go ahead with it. And I was like, well, you've got 9 months to figure this out. So find a way because this is happening. Like, the time's going to come and you're going to have to find a way. So I had a massive team in the room. There was 16 consultants in the room. And I was okay until the day of the operation, and I was really scared because they were like, we've got a vague idea what we're going to do, but we're just going to play it by ear, see what we face. Because I lost loads of blood with the first two. So they were like, they had loads of backup, like, this is going to go wrong, that's going to go wrong, that's going to go wrong, that's going to go wrong. We need to loads of supplement stuff. And just as I was going to sleep, it was a really bizarre thing to say, but I was just like, no matter what happens, I've got to get back to my boys because they're here. They need me. Like, I need to get back to my boys. Like, so I was like, and they were like, yeah, of course, we know that. And they delivered her really, it actually went really smoothly, far smoother than the other two cesareans. I think because they were prepared for massive trauma and massive complications, I know he was a brilliant surgeon. It actually went really, really smoothly. But yeah, so it was an eventful pregnancy as well. And then she came along and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to miss a minute. And then while I was on maternity leave, we'd been talking for years about pulling Jake out of school because we knew he was on the autism spectrum. He wasn't diagnosed. We were in massive waiting lists for a diagnosis. So there was little issues coming up in school. The thought of him going to high school, I was like, he's just going to get eaten alive. Like, I don't know how he's going to cope. There was bullying issues. And I was like, this is it. We're not going to send him to school. We're going to home educate. So yeah, started home educating.
How do you go about home educate? Like,
send a letter to the school and say you want to home educate.
Do you not need to then educate yourself to be able to educate them? I don't know.
So there's a lot of misconception.
Teacher has 4 years training.
They do. There's a lot of misconception. You have to provide an education. You do, a legal requirement. A child has to be educated. But how you choose to do that is up to you. And obviously, I don't think I could have done it old school. This is where the internet's really played the game now. So we've got like online tutors, there's online courses, there's help from everywhere. I don't sit with workbooks in front of my son. He doesn't learn like that anyway, which is why school was always such a massive issue for him. And then I fell into the world of, how do I do this? How do I survive financially? And I was like, actually, I don't care. We're doing it. Ultimately, I mean, people think that it's a massive, but you've got every right to home educate children. We did that for years before school was invented. Children just did life with their parents. And they learn a lot of skills they wouldn't learn in school. So the way we did it with Jake, we kept he's brilliant at maths, like awesome at maths, but he struggles very much with English and things like that. he can get very logical things, whereas English is very nuanced. Like there's rules and then rules that break rules, and so he struggles with that kind of thing. But he's really creative. So we started off just playing on his strengths to build his confidence. Let's do the things that you're strong with and work on the things that you're not. He's a very visual learner, so we rely a lot on visual learning aids, like lots and lots of like video tutorials and stuff like that, because he grasps that a lot better. And that's something school would never have been able to accommodate. Not only that, but he only actually got his official diagnosis 6 months ago. So he'd have gone through the whole of high school without it, so he wouldn't have got any additional support. But yeah, it was mainly for him to give him the support he needed that he couldn't get in school. It wasn't the school's fault. I'm not anti-school at all. I don't think that everyone could home educate. I don't think it's the right decision for everyone. But I wanted to give him a rich life. He thrives outside. Like we can literally, if I say to him, what have you learned today? He'd be like any school kid. Oh, I don't know, nothing. But then we'll go for a walk for a couple of hours and he'll be like, did you know? And he'll talk like the hind legs off a donkey. The universe works like this, this and this and this and this, and the space mission did this, this, and he knows things in such massive depth because he hyper-focuses. So while there's probably gaps in his education, which undoubtedly, well, there is, we know that we can, I think it's changing your mentality. It's like this whole, you have to do 11 GCSEs when you're 16, and you don't. You can spread them out. So he's actually going to college in September. So he's going back in the education system, but I knew college would be, it's a different environment to school, isn't it?
Well, that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. It can work. And so what if you don't know about Henry VIII for everyone or Macbeth? It's like, I don't remember any of it. And what use has it been ever to me? So it's...
This is it. And like a lot of people say, oh, he's going to fail his education. And I've kind of got this, I'm not proud of this. And Gavin's gone on to do great, great things, and I'm mega, mega proud of him for that. But Gavin went through the whole school situation. He got bullied throughout school horrifically, which was one of the reasons I didn't want Jake to go to high school, and he left with no GCSEs. Yeah. So it's like school provides GCSEs, that's what everyone says, they provide an education. Well, it didn't do him any good. He's done major good things since then, but school didn't fit him. The school way of learning didn't fit him. Being in the classroom with 30
and
kids.
It's one size fits all, isn't it? You go in a group
he didn't
situation.
Fit him.
Yeah.
And Jake's very black and white over things. So when you try, he has a very need to know basis. He's like, why do I need to know that? Like, and it's not the typical school situation. So like, learning about pi and stuff like that, it's useful to him because what he wants to do, he needs to know certain mathematical things and trigonometry and things like that. Whereas most people would be like, that's useless. But learning about King Henry, he's like, what? Why do I need to know that? Mm. He's very factual. He likes very factual things.
But it's almost like it shouldn't be going against the grain. That's quite different, isn't it? But actually, it's right for him. So why would anyone have the right to judge you for making that decision? But do you feel that people have judged you?
No, on the whole, I think I've had a really good response. You get the classic one, how do they socialise? Which is the most ridiculous thing in the home education environment, because I always throw that back to them. How do your kids socialise? They are stuck in groups that they don't choose to be in, that are all the same age, and they get 15 minutes of break, maybe an hour at lunch to actually do what they want to do in a very controlled environment for a very specific amount of time. Whereas you find in the home education, it goes across all ages, from babies to adults. So Jake has never got on with his own age group. He's really good with younger people that are much younger than him because he's got that leadership quality with them, and he's brilliant with adults. He's always got on with adults. I mean, that was one of the problems in school, is that he wanted the teacher's attention all the time because he got on with teachers more than he got on with kids. And so it's a ridiculous statement, but that is the one that comes up. How do they socialise? And we go to home education groups all the time. It's a really thriving environment around here. And we've got the added benefit of like, there's a Chester group and a Wrexham group, and they, you know, you can get involved in both of them. And then there's all spin-off things like you get to make friends then out of the groups, and
it's almost like
friends.
It's a much more rounded experience, but involves a lot more work from you. And I guess that if you look at your 20-odd-year-old self, you'd be like, absolutely no way, I want my career. So actually, it involves you researching all of that, researching what he needs to learn, and hours of work on your behalf that probably a lot of parents don't want to do, in some situations can't do because they've got to go to work.
That's it. Like, a lot of people said, like, I want to do it, but I've got a job, how do I do it? And I was like, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Like, I made that sacrifice. I don't like it as a sacrifice because I've gained so much from doing it, like so much from doing it.
But about pie for one.
Honestly, he comes up with these things and I'm like, yeah, we need someone who knows what we're talking about. Because maths was never my strong point. I was more creative. So yeah, it's been a learning curve to keep up with him, and he's taught me like loads of things that I wouldn't have got involved in. Like, he's into space, so he follows NASA and space missions and all this kind of stuff, and he blows my mind. Like, there's lots of things he's come downstairs and gone, did you know this? I'm like, no, that's rubbish, Jake, don't believe everything that's not on the internet. And he's like, I will prove it to you. And he goes and gets all these videos and things, and I'm like, okay, I never knew that. And so I've learned things I would never have got interested in because and that's it. When you said about like being experienced, as is the case with a lot of life, I think you only have to be one step ahead of them. You literally need to know in school terms, you need to be one lesson ahead of them. As long as you know what you're going to teach them next, you grow together. So actually with Jessica, it'd be a lot easier because obviously she's very young. So you're starting at primary school age. And so it's very basic stuff that you're teaching, but then you it's like going back to school yourself. You learn it to teach it.
Yeah. I'm just going to move us on.
Yeah.
No. So I want to just talk about kindness.
Yeah, kind of the point.
Throughout your life, what's been like a really good act of kindness someone's done for you?
Oh, there's been so many little things. And now you've asked me, I can't think of any. But no, there's been loads of different things. I think friendship support has been a big one, like having friends that have got your back in all kinds of... I mean, I've just explained for however long we've been talking about my history, and I don't think I'd have managed a lot of that without support from other people, which I took very reluctantly because I've always had that I can do it myself attitude, which it's been a very recent thing actually to allow people in and be like, do you know what, this would be easier if you did it. But just like leg ups in life, like people, when I was working all hours God sends, just people being like, I've cooked dinner tonight for you. That was massive at the time. It's nothing that, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but to me it was like, oh my God, thank you. Home education has been like, I can't tell you how many people helped me with that because I had no clue. It was a huge learning curve. And then just, I think it's reciprocated. Since I've not been working, I had time because when I was working, it was a very self-centered thing because I didn't have time to focus on anything else. And I'm a big believer when it comes around, like I've done things with friends and then something's come around for me. I can't think of specific examples now, but there's been lots of help on the way.
So it's almost like kindness is a cycle. If you're kind to
100%.
others, it'll come back in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
I like that. And what I want to talk a little bit about, how have you got into this green-fingered Clair?
Yeah, both. I think it kind of goes with the lifestyle. Like they always say, sourdough bread is a gateway to chickens, which is a gateway to wanting to farm, and it kind of was like that in different ways. It started off...
Sorry. Sourdough bread is a gateway to chickens. Why is sourdough bread a gateway to chickens?
Because I think if you start down this lifestyle, it can be like the simplest trigger.
But why? What's sourdough bread got to do with anything?
Everything.
That's it.
I did a whole post on how sourdough bread is like the gateway drug. Or some people say chicken's the gateway drug, but it's always one of those two things. Because I think when you start, sourdough bread's a very old school way of doing bread.
Right, okay.
And it's not going to the shop and buying a loaf, but it's a bit more than just even getting a packet of yeast and doing your own. You've got to nurture this starter for weeks before you can use it, and then take 2 days to make a loaf of bread. And so it's going back to, for me, I can't speak for everyone, for me, it was going back to that old ways of doing things, which has become a massive passion of mine. It's like, okay, how was it done before? How was it done before? How was it done before? How was it originally done?
So do you like hand wash your own clothes now?
I would if I had the opportunity. I don't, because you choose your battles. But ultimately, I want to live completely off grid. So I'm
Tampax, so you're alright with them. Because they weren't around in the olden days.
No, but I use reusable pads.
Okay, I'm trying to think of something that modern technology has helped.
Modern technology helps with connections. It helps with the word out. This wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for technology.
Yeah.
So I don't rebuke technology at all, but I think we've ended up getting into a world that is getting so far removed from, there's no community really, unless you really strive to cultivate it and keep the community, like people don't know their neighbours. So I think it's trying to go back to that old community way of living, and that, knowing your neighbours, being able to ask for a cup of sugar. Like, no one would do that now. They're just like, oh, I've got my sugar, I have to go without until I get to the shop. And
you see, we use WhatsApp. It's nice at Christmas to make cocktails. I put it on the WhatsApp group, and there was a knock on the door 30 seconds later from Les next door but 3. We could have our cocktails.
WhatsApp.
You see, so it's a combination of the technology.
I never thought of doing it that way.
Building community.
But yeah, so I just think, obviously life's evolved and things have made, like a washing machine makes your life easier than hand washing. And I think that's where we live in the luxury of being able to choose what you want to do traditionally and what you want to do conveniently. And we don't have to go back to that real old hand sweeping the floors, but you can pick and choose the bits that you enjoy.
I like it. So what else do you do?
So I always dabbled in gardening, growing bits and pieces, but I took it really seriously in lockdown, as I think half the nation did. Ripped up my lawn, started growing things. I had no clue what I was doing. I literally just bought packets of seeds.
There's a theme here, isn't there? I have no clue what I'm doing. I just started.
And we got a really beginners looking gardening thing, so we got a really good yield from our garden. And I was like, I really love this. Loved that Jess was going out there eating raw peas and could name all the plants in the garden, knew what she could eat, couldn't eat. And I was like, this is kind of the life that I want. This is great. So then we got chickens. And they were, it's all been based around the kids, I suppose, but then I've accidentally fallen in love with it, watching the kids running around with these chickens and collecting their eggs every morning. Jake loves animals. It's one of his things. He's like nurturing animals and things, so that helped there. And then because I've harped on about Jess said from day dot, we're having a farm. So it's kind of grown into we're having a farm. But yeah, it just went from there. Started growing more every year, took over more and more of my garden. Everyone's like, we're going to have no lawn to play on. I was like, the lawn's useless, let's grow food.
Can't eat that.
And then I just got to the stage, like last year, it was kind of, there is no room to grow anymore. I had this big project I was involved in that we were all going to live off grid in Scarborough with this thing that was going to happen that fell apart for loads of different reasons. So then I started taking it seriously. I was like, I need to do this myself. No one's going to do this for me. I need to make this work. So I was like, I've always had that attitude of like, if I can't do what I want to do, what can I do towards it? What's the next step? Like, what can I do today that moves the needle forward for that, like, wants to sell, so to speak? So I was like, right, grow as much as I can in my own garden, get the chickens. Started very, very recently, started selling the eggs that were surplus. And I was like, okay, people want to buy eggs, how can I have more chickens? So how can I grow more food? Because I haven't got enough land. Spent best part of 2 years trying to find land, like commercial land or whatever that we could borrow, beg, rent cheaply, and it just doesn't happen. It's so hard to find. So I had this idea. I was like, my mate's got a garden. She doesn't use it. I've been badgering her for ages. So I sent her a text 4 weeks ago and said, can I use your garden? And she was like, yeah, I don't do anything with it. I was like, do you mind if you put some chickens there? We'll share the eggs with you. And that's all it was supposed to be, like literally putting chickens there. And 3.5 weeks later, we've got food forest going on. It's all self-sustainable. Don't know what's happened. It's taken a world of its own. And then neighbours started seeing it and they were like, what are you doing? I was like, well, it's kind of good to give her food and eggs and use her garden that she's not using. We're going to sell the rest. And we're looking for land. And they were like, oh, I don't use my garden. You can use my garden. So now I've got 2 others to do that we haven't started yet. And we think we're onto the thing.
So where do you want to get to?
So we've kind of fallen into this and it's really nice. Ultimately, it's a farm. Like, I want my own farm, and what comes of that will be a whole different story. This was just supposed to be a journey to get that, to make a bit of money, grow more veg than I could grow in my garden. But along the way, I've got massively passionate. I was like, the street that we're doing it on is a low-income street. Like, and speaking to the residents down there, like, they're all very well aware. Like, I'm not going to get into whole scheme things, but that the food at supermarkets isn't great, let alone like extortion now for what you get. And everyone's struggling with the cost of living, and that's what started it for me. Like, I was on the bones of my arse and I was like, well, I can't afford to buy organic, I'm going to have to grow it. Like, that's just going to be the way to do it. And so you could talk till you're blue in the face to them about buying organic food, and they're like, yeah, that's great. I go, we haven't got the money to buy organic food. So it's a no-go from the start. And they've got all these unused gardens, and I was just like, to me, it's a very logical thing to do, but when you're in that situation, it's not even on your radar to do that.
Where do you start? Yeah.
And then it's like, it's going to cost loads of money, it's going to take loads of time, which we've proved it's neither. Like, this garden has been, I think we've spent 30 quid in the garden, and it's getting there now. Or it's all been cuttings or seeds that were given to us. We've started it up, which we're quite proud of, like made the chicken coop out of pallets. To prove it can, at first we were quite embarrassed about it, that we weren't spending any money, and then I was like, no, we need to champion this. It can be done with no money in a like ridiculously quick, like it's 3 weeks and it's growing. It's going to take time for everything to actually get to produce stage, but it's maintaining it now more than anything. And I was like, this is a really nice concept. So things evolved, and we were like, now we can provide affordable, like, just organic food, organically grown food, because you're not allowed to say it's organic unless you're certified, but organically grown food, regardless of income. And I'm a big believer in that. I don't think money should be a barrier to be able to access good quality food. It's a staple. We do it 3 times a day. And I think the more conscientious people have got, the more premium's been put on, the better quality food. Like, organic is a thing now, but people, like, supermarkets sell organic food and it's just double the price. And actually, organic doesn't mean it's not sprayed with stuff. It just means it's not sprayed with as much stuff. Whereas we always say, like, there's a phrase now, beyond organic, we're not going to spray anything with anything. You know, it's completely pesticide and chemical free, and supporting. You know, hopefully all the insects will come, the soil's getting built, the gardens are going to get better, they'll support more, which will be easy to grow more in the future, and it just ends up in this massive cycle. And it feels so good that people have jumped on board. Like, when I first had this idea, I was like, yeah, so I'm just going to walk up to someone and say, can I have your garden, please, to grow some veg? I'll give you some. What can I? No one's going to do that. And actually, it's the other way around. People have been like, why would I not let you do this? Like this, so you do it all. And I'm like, yeah. And it's turned into this thing that's much bigger than us, which I've always looked for. I've tried to cultivate businesses like this and never been able to do it. And this has so accidentally happened. And I think that's why it's good, because it's not something that's been contrived, it's just happened.
Well, and hopefully there'll be some skills passed on to the community, because you are building community, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, actually, that's a great act of kindness, because you're not only giving people a healthier diet, but also you're giving them skills and knowledge to be able to sustain that for not a lot of money.
Yeah, so the idea is it's all, because I've got in the back of my head that eventually I want my farm, so I don't want to be like going around millions of gardens sorting it all out. So we've made sure, I mean, we've only done half of one so far, but we're making sure that it's all perennial. It all comes back year after year after year. So, you know, if they haven't got the time to do it, they don't have to maintain. They're not starting a new garden like a traditional garden with seeds every year, veg patch or whatever. It'll look after itself. It'll be a self-sustaining thing, and the perennials will get bigger and better every year and grow from there. So that then they can do it themselves, and that's the idea, you know. And even just being there doing that, people have come to the gate talking, like neighbours talking and stuff like that. Some have started trimming their own gardens, and I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, you inspired me to do mine. I was like, even if we never get to the stage of getting food in the garden, either by them doing it or by us doing it, it's starting to have that roll-on effect that they're like, oh, I never thought that I could actually use this space. You know, people in flats would cry for a garden like that. They'd give anything for a garden.
Yeah.
And they just, because none of them use them, because they're detached, they've got like a little lane. So a lot of them have said, when I was speaking to them, they've never felt that it's theirs because they've got to walk across this road to get to their garden. It's not attached to the houses. And by doing one, I mean, some people do, but they're all low fences. It's really set up. I was like, I've just got this dream that like they'll all be growing veg and they'll all be talking to each other, and then they can grow different veg in different gardens and they'll share it. And it could be an amazing thing. Like it could it could turn the street around.
So we always finish the podcast by talking about, like, in terms of what can we learn from each other. So like a kindness summary. What three pearls of wisdom have you got that we've learned, you know, from chatting and from life? I think there's got to be something around this, using food and growing produce as a way, like it is a real act of kindness to give someone that. So like, why is that important? I think for me it's around, you're building community and skills and knowledge, but the community thing is much more sustainable, isn't it, than a bit of veg, and much more important in bringing those people together. But what else? What other bits of advice around kindness have you got?
I think it is with food. For going back to old ways, like food brings people together, whether it's round a table, whether it's round a market, food brings people together. Like it can bring strangers together and everyone, and it can bring families together. Food is always, like, I've always strived to like home cooked food and stuff because I see that key. And I think it's a really simple step, but a really important step, like getting people passionate about it, not just like throwing some frozen food but getting people passionate about food. And through food, you can build community again through loads of different ways. It's such a simple idea, but I think the best ideas are the simple ideas.
I agree.
And
this whole place, the whole point is to bring people in through the really good home cooked food and then get people building community, which, definitely food, sharing right from the growing to the eating and building community through food. What else? We need one more. What about from your days of when you changed your whole mindset and became from being the career person to the...
I think this might not be the element you're looking at. I think being leads to kindness, because when I worked in the office career, I never thought that the world was very kind, and I never thought that people were generally, I thought there was exceptional people that were really like, that was their life and their personality and their mission. But that's because I wasn't open to receiving it. So I never had it because I was fiercely independent. I wouldn't let anybody help me, looking back. And I think it goes back to that cup of sugar. The reason that doesn't happen now is because people would be too embarrassed to go to their neighbour and ask for a cup of sugar. And I think you have to have a mentality change to be open to receiving kindness. And then it's through that changes your outlook on how you can help people. Like, I thought I forgot about little gestures. Like, my friend texted me this morning because I said I'd help her sort out a yard. And she's like, you don't know what it means. I was like, but I've been trying to help you in massive ways and I've never known how to do it. But actually just like sweeping a yard and trimming a yard is a massive thing for her, because it's something that like she's been trying to do and like can't. And I wouldn't have seen that as an act of kindness. I would have seen it as, well, it's going to take me 10 minutes. Like, what's the problem? Yeah, to give it, I'll do that. And I think it's, seeing the really little things that you can do. If you can do big things, do it. But if you're not in a position to do big things, like offering to have your friends' kids around for an hour so that they can go and have a shower, like, that's a really kind thing to do. But I never got that concept. I just see that's just something you would do because you're a human being.
So it's almost like reframing it, isn't it? So it's like, actually, you are quite an innately kind person, but you've never viewed yourself as that.
Yeah.
So actually that comes back to you need to learn to be kind to yourself and acknowledge that you're actually quite a nice human. I've hit a nail there, haven't I, on the head. You don't think you're a kind person, do you?
No. It's we're at the end of the podcast, so I'm not going to open this can of worms, but I will just drop it in there. I actually went to like a energy healing thing at Christmas, and I was just cooking food there. That's what I was going to do, and they said you can dip in and dip out. I ended up doing the whole thing around cooking the food, and I wasn't expecting to, like, I ended up accidentally being on this huge trauma healing journey that I never actually signed up for. And I was like, I might have some issues in my past through what's happened. Nothing major. And then we were doing this like deep healing thing, and the facilitator came over, and I was like in floods of tears, didn't really know why. And she was like, do you love yourself? And I absolutely, the bottom fell out of my world. And I realised that I hadn't actually ever really had any self-love in the true meaning. If people said, do you? I'd have gone, yeah, of course I do. But I didn't have that deep self-love, which probably, like, wrapping it all up, was a lot of the reasons why I did what I did in my 20s, because I just had to keep busy, and then I didn't have to focus on me. And the more time that I've gone down this side has been like, you start having self-reflection, and I was like, you've hit the nail on the head.
But therefore, you can live a lot more, because if you're just trying to keep yourself busy being busy, you're not really doing fun things and things that give you energy and love in life. So do you think you do like yourself now? We'll not even go to love. Do you like yourself?
There was an instant transformation, actually. We did this whole thing, So I went from being in floods of tears to like dancing on my own in this room full of 20 people watching me going. And I'd never have done anything like that. I'd have been like, oh my God, like, what are they thinking of me? And there was lots of things in like ancestral, they're miracle workers, and they got down to like, there was ancestral trauma that wasn't, because they kept saying there's things in your childhood, and I was like, I had an all right childhood. My childhood was really good. I haven't got that story of a bad childhood. And it turned out that it was ancestral childhood.
Well, sorry.
I know.
Over that. So before you were born, there was a trauma.
Yeah, generational trauma.
That has made you...
Sometime they even nailed it down to being an 8-year-old. At some time in another life, as an 8-year-old, trauma was triggered, and it was...
Who's the other life?
I don't know, like before me, like ancestral down the lines.
So an 8-year-old ancestor had a trauma that has made you not like yourself.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
No, but trauma carries... I'm quite deep into energy here, but trauma carries through the generations. You're not aware of it, but it can show up in not having self-love, or a big one is procrastination. Like people say, I procrastinate all the time, and usually you're self-sabotaging because you went to do that in a previous life and it went horribly wrong. So without knowing why you're doing it now, you're just like, I wreck everything I try. But it's a self-preservation because this is a whole new story.
So my best mate, Lafaf, we call her, because she procrastinates so much. She procrastinates probably because of one of her ancestors, something went wrong, and now she's procrastinating.
They did it or attempted it or did something similar, it went horribly wrong, so it's a self-preservation, it's in your DNA. It's been scientifically proven.
Wait till I tell her.
And it's in your DNA. And so in the same way as you don't put your hand in the fire because at some point you know that, like, you were taught it's going to burn, or you experience it's going to burn, you won't do that thing because your self-preservation says don't do that, that's dangerous.
So when you say ancestors, it could be like Nanny Peggy for me. She has something in her life. So that
And it alters your
went
DNA.
through my mum, through me, and that's and so what's the energy healing malarkey then? How does that stop that? How do you change that?
Because if you can you don't even subconsciously, I don't know to this day I don't know what happened to that 8-year-old girl, whoever it was, or boy, like, I don't know what happened, but I mean, he does like quantum healing, like he does like really woo-woo stuff over your body and like moves like things. You've got no feeling of it. And he was like, we're going to get that crap out. And actually how it ended up, there was 2 facilitators. He did like all this quantum stuff. And then the other facilitator said, I like sat up and I was like, I want it gone. Like I just had this innate feeling that like, I want it gone. And she was like screaming. I was like, don't be ridiculous. And she'd done sound healing with all these gongs in this room, and she was like, scream. And this noise came out from the pits of my belly. I wasn't making it, I swear to God, like, there's no way I would have sustained what I did. And I let out this scream for about 2 or 3 minutes, non-stop, non-breath. All the gongs were shaking. It was like that loud. And I was like, it's gone.
Blimey.
And I felt a million times better. I liken it to, because I was on a massive high, and then because it felt so good. But I liken it to, in your house, your fridge always buzzes and you never hear it until the electric goes, and then you're like, oh, my fridge is actually quite loud. Or if you live by a road, you don't hear the traffic until you're not by the road. It was like that. I was like, I feel like I've had this weight within me that I've never known, because I've never known what it's like to not have that weight. Yeah. And now I know what that now it's gone. I feel like a complete, at the retreat, it was a 4-day retreat. And after that day, we all came round for a meal around the table again. And every single person said, you look completely different. Physically, you look different. It changed. I came home a different person.
So what have you done as a consequence of this lifting?
It's been, I don't know that this wouldn't have started, but it's just been a mentality change of like, I can make good shit happen, and I am capable of making more. I mean, I've always been capable because I've done hard stuff, but, I suppose that I don't have to grind things. Things can come easily. You've just got to be open to accept things to come easily. Yeah. And I think that's why this has been like so effortless. It's been because
it's actually the total opposite of how you used to live, where I'm pregnant, it's what it is, I'll grind through it.
I said that.
Now it's
pride in doing things the hard way.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, but things can just come to you. Like things can just miraculously happen to you if you are open to receiving it. And that's kindness, that's love, that's business opportunities. Like the things that have happened since Christmas have been insane. Like conversations I've had with people that I never would have had. And I didn't come back with I'm going to have this mad life from now on. It just happened because my energy has changed, like my outlook's changed. And I keep going, thinking that I suppose there's that little bit of like, how long is this going to keep up? Like, is it going to go back to the way it was? And it doesn't, and it just keeps getting better and better. Like, we're only in May.
Have you had any more quantum healing or anything since?
No. I want to, but
what is the quantum bit of it? Like, there's quantum physics? What is quantum?
You're getting technical. I don't understand it. I've tried to look into it, but it is basically, there is a universal energy that moves through everything, and that energy is within you, and there's like that whole high vibration, low vibration beings and states of mind is a real thing.
I need to meet Mr. Quantum, don't I?
You can. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's awesome. He did it. He's done energy healing, like little bits, nothing to the extent of retreat, on Zoom with me.
Oh wow!
Like,
so he can do his over the Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, we have digressed, haven't we? Right.
We have digressed.
Any final thoughts?
Accidentally go on a healing retreat and your life will change. I don't think you have to look, going back to kindness, I don't think you have to look for kindness. I think you have to look for community and building connections with people, and from that, kindness will come. Inevitably, it has to.
I like that a lot. I've never really thought about it that way, but actually building community enables kindness.
It's a unavoidable byproduct, because if you build community, you've got an invested interest in more than you, because then your interest expands into the community and their interest expands, and then you create the web, and then it will naturally, in the same way that you're kind to your children and your children are kind to each other, you will be kind to your neighbours because you'll have that connection.
And that Jonah is the socials, Claire.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Curious Chats and Kind Acts. It was lovely to have you. Can I just say a massive thank you to all the people that we've interviewed who have been so honest and vulnerable with me, so that we can have these real life stories to share with you, our wonderful listener. And remember, we'd love to hear what random or small acts of kindness you've been up to, so that we can maybe do a few. Find us on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our /ACTSGB, that's ACTSGB. And drop a comment on our feed, tweet us, or even send a photo. Let's build our kindness community together. We'll read some of our favourites on future episodes of Curious Chats and Kind Acts. And you never know, we might even have a go at a few of your ideas ourselves. Watch this space on the socials. For more information about the Acts charity, including how to donate to us, head to actsonline.uk. See you next time!